Thank you so much, Madam President, for that warm welcome. And welcome to everyone as you are joining us as the meeting has started. And I am excited about being the Toastmasters today. And as stated, the theme is celebrating success. And there are always things that we do in life. And sometimes we need to just take a moment, take a breath, and just celebrate. Even if it's tiny wins, whenever we celebrate, it energizes us to continue moving forward. And that is what we're going to be doing in our meeting today, to celebrate the successes even of our club. And just to get us started, I actually prepared something for us to celebrate as a club. If you are not aware, in the month of September, we actually had back-to-back meetings, meaning every Tuesday we were having a meeting. And that was a way to help our members to what we called to level up, to ensure that they were able to present their speeches and complete their levels. And today I would just like to celebrate our members in terms of what we were able to achieve in the month of September. So I have a slide. Let me just share my screen. Okay. All right. So as stated, so we were celebrating success in the month. We were celebrating success. Sorry, just give me a moment. Let me just share my slide again. All right. Okay, I hope it is visible. So here were some of the successes that we had in the month of September. So in terms of the total speeches that were completed, there were not 20, there were not 21, but we had a total of 24 speeches that were completed in the month of September. So that was such a great achievement. And then who were these people who were presenting all these speeches? So just want to celebrate the following members who presented at least one speech. We had Benjamin Bunolo, who did an icebreaker. We have Clement Kambewu. Hasina also did an icebreaker. We have Elijah. We have Herbert. Other people who did at least one speech. We have Laruna, Lebohang, Matidiso, Alisa, Tato, Teo. Quite a lot of people did at least one speech. We have some more. We have Tepo and Tumelo. They were all able to do at least one speech in the month of September. And then we had at least doing two speeches in the month of September. All right, so we had myself, I did at least two speeches in the month of September, but there were other people who even took that extra step and did at least 3 speeches in the month of September, and we had none other than Lola and Ndezi, who were able to do at least 3 speeches in the month of September. And then if we just look in terms of the new members for us to celebrate in the month, we had Lebohang, Hasina, Brunolo, and Hilda. So those are the new members we had in the month of September. And in Toastmasters, there's something called the DCP goals. So this is basically, this is what is used to determine, is this club healthy? You always need KPIs when, in terms of determining, have you actually achieved the goals for the club? So there are 10 goals that are normally, as a club, you're striving to achieve. And at the end of September, us as a club, we were able to achieve out of the 10, 6 goals. So that is something really amazing. So we have 6 out of 10. So we are almost there in ensuring that we do indeed meet our 10 DCP goals. And then in terms of just celebration, there's this quote I saw by Winston Churchill that says, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." And that's just to say that sometimes when we have a goal, we might think, oh, I haven't done the best I could. I wish I could have done more. But like that quote says, it's the courage to continue. That is what we should be striving for. Like it says, failure is not fatal. We can always rise up and dust ourselves off and continue on our journey. So that's just a small hint of some of the success that we have had as a club so far. So well done, Gaborone Toastmasters. Just looking at the month of just September in terms of what we were able to achieve. So welcome if you are joining us. And I would like to say our chat is live. You can put in the chat where you are joining us from. Would love to find out where are you joining us on this Zoom call. I'm sure there are lots of people coming in from different places. Besides, I know we are based in Gaborone, but there could be others coming from another city or town or even country. So yeah, welcome. You're welcome. So as stated, I am the Toastmaster of the day, and I'm not going to be doing this role all by myself. I have other people who will be helping me along the way, and I would like to invite the role players to the virtual stage to kindly share what they will be doing in the meeting today. So I'd like to invite our timekeeper. I hope she's in the meeting. Yes, all right. Bame, are you on the call? I know I hadn't seen her earlier. Okay, she's not yet here. Okay, let me move on to our grammarian, Herbert. I also don't see him on the call. All right, let's move on to the R counter. R counter. Okay, Bunolo is on the call. So Bunolo, if you could just come to the virtual stage and tell us about your role today.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My role today as the R counter will be to note the sounds that are used as a crutch or a pause filler by anyone who speaks during this meeting. I will listen, sorry. I will listen for overused words, including and, well, but, so, and you know. I will also listen for filler words, including eh. I will also note when a speaker repeats a word or a phrase such as I. Yes, such as I. This means that at the end of the meeting, I will give a report on the number of times that each of the speakers used those expressions. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for that, Bunolo. I'd now like to invite our hack master, Laruna, to please come to the virtual stage and tell us about your role. You are muted.
Oh. Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. Today, I am your hack master, which means I have a fun and interactive task. My role is to test your listening skills. Throughout the meeting, I'll be paying close attention to everything that happens, including the speeches, evaluations, and even the reports. At the end of the meeting, I'll ask you a few questions about what was said, and I hope you'll be able to answer. The purpose of this role is to help everyone improve their active listening, which is a critical part of becoming a better communicator. So stay alert and let's see who can remember the most details from tonight's meeting. It's all in good fun, but it will help you become a better listener. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Laruna, for that. As she stated, we should listen carefully because she'll be asking us some questions. I'm still looking on the participant list and I still don't see our timer. I don't know if we could find someone from the meeting who could assist us to be the timer for our meeting today. Palisa, could you assist us to be the timer? Hi, Palisa.
Hi, Leah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, I can try and scrape around for cards. I wasn't prepared to be a timer, so I can try and scrape around and look for cards. So if you can just go through the role players, and then I will be able to assist.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. And then it looks like our grammarian is also not on the call. I don't know if I could get a grammarian from someone on the call. The word of the day is already there. Let me just see if the agenda can be shared on the chat. We already have a word of the day. So it's just basically taking on the role. I've shared the agenda on the chat. We already have a word of the day. Is there anyone who could assist us to be the grammarian? Or has Herbert finally arrived? I don't see him on the call.
I see Julie here.
Sorry?
Julie is raised her hand.
Oh, sorry. I was paying attention to the participants on the list, double checking. Oh, okay. Julie has raised her hand. Okay, that would be great. Amazing.
Can you please just tell me what the word of the day is?
The word of the day is euphoria.
Euphoria.
Yes. So you can go ahead and just tell us about the role of grammarian. Sorry.
Hello, Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster, and most welcome guests, of which I am one. I am euphoric to have this opportunity to suddenly participate in your meeting using the role as grammarian to introduce myself to you all. The role of the grammarian is to look out for words and phrases and vocabulary which are well used, and also to listen carefully for any grammatical errors or perhaps unacceptable words or words which are mispronounced or not correct in the context. It will be my duty afterwards to give a report on the grammar and the language usage as the meeting progresses in the second half. Now, I am, as I said, euphoric to tell you that the word of the evening is euphoria. What does euphoria mean? Euphoria is a state of absolute delight, happiness, and excitement. So you can imagine, I am now demonstrating to you exactly what euphoria is. It is a thrill, an excitement, a state of higher delight. So I hope that you can be challenged during the course of the evening to use the word euphoria or euphoric in whatever form you can. So I'm euphoric about the challenge. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Julie, for that. And as stated, our word of the day is euphoria. And I'm definitely euphoric about the success that we have been able to achieve and excited for more successes to come. I think you can agree with me, if we're able to do this much in this 3 months, there's so much more that we can do in the remaining 9 months. Or maybe if you had a goal in the first part of the year, you seeing only 3 months remaining, like that quote I said, failure is not final. You can rise up again and see what you can do to achieve the goals that you had set yourself for 2024. Palisa, I don't know if you are ready now to just tell us about your role as the timer.
Good evening, everyone. I can tell you about the role. However, I'm still looking for the cards. Let me just switch on my camera. Give me a second. Awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Palisa Makhato, and I will be your timer this evening. Okay, sorted. So my role this evening is to ensure that all speakers speak according to the time they're allocated. For the different speakers, for speeches which are between 5 to 7 minutes, at 5 minutes, I will show the green card. At 6 minutes, I will show, this should be amber. And then at 7 minutes, I will show, please give me a second, the red card. Toastmaster of the day, are these cards visible?
Very visible.
Awesome stuff. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. I'm unprepared, but I'll do it.
Thank you so much, Palisa, for stepping up even at the last minute. So we'll just make sure that we probably even spotlight you next to the speaker so that the speaker can see you clearly. And at this point, we're now going to get into the first part of our meeting. So our meeting is divided into 2 major parts. The first part is the prepared speaking section. Then the second part will be what we call the better listening. So that's where we get the feedback, the evaluations from the speeches today. So the next set of people who will be presenting their speeches have spent some time, either 1 or 2 weeks, to prepare their speech. So I'd like to invite our first speaker to the virtual stage, but before they come, I'd like to invite the first speaker's evaluator, Ntedzi, if you could please come and tell us the speech objective of Benjamin's speech. You are muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Am I visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toasties and our lovely guest. My role today is to evaluate the gentleman Benjamin Mahotiel. I feel a sense of euphoria. I anticipate to witness his presentation today. Benjamin is working on level 1, project 4, his first speech to his project called Evaluation and Feedback. The speech title for Benjamin is Business Continuity Management. Now, the purpose of this project is for the member to present a speech on any topic. It could be humorous or informative, and receive feedback and apply the feedback on his second speech. So I will be listening and give a general evaluation. And over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. So Benjamin, with the speech title, Business Continuity Management. Business Continuity Management. Benjamin, you may take the virtual stage.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Today I'm going to present about business continuity management. What is it? This is where the company identifies a potential threat and plans to stop the threat. A typical example of such a threat would be, the very peculiar one would be the COVID-19. During COVID-19, there was threat to businesses. And this very club, one of the things that we did during the COVID-19 was to start the virtual meetings. We now moved from the physical meetings to now virtual because there was a hard lockdown, people couldn't move. The other example would be people started doing remote work. They worked remotely, and some shops even introduced grocery delivery at home. What are the primary goals of the business continuity planning? Is for the company to recognize the potential threats, assess the impact of the potential threats on the company's daily activities, provide a way to reduce the potential problems, and establish a structure that allows the company key functions to control throughout and after the event, to identify resources the company needs to continue operating, such as staffing, equipment, and alternative locations. What are the business continuity planning steps? The first step is to create a governance team, complete business impact and risk assessment documents. So this is documented. The plan is well documented. Document the plan. Remember to include detailed guidelines and procedures. Test and update the plan regularly. The business continuity management lifecycle. What is it? This includes preparing for and handling unexpected events. BCM has a 6-step risk cycle. The steps are mitigate the risk, proactively identify business risks that your company and plan on how you'll respond, prepare, train your staff on the prepare your staff on business continuity plan and ensure they understand what they need to do, respond, ensure that your company and employees respond appropriately to the crisis, be prepared to adapt in the moment, resolve, ensure the company plans how to communicate effectively and with staff, and that it does so appropriately during the crisis, recover, inform employees, customers, and other important people about the status of the crisis in your company. Resume, that is, go back to the original plan, communicate with employees and others after the crisis ends. An overview of management and business planning. There are several goals, key elements, and benefits, business continuity and management and planning. The primary goals of planning are as follows: build company resiliency. Doing so means that your company and your tools, buildings, and operations are resistant to and not greatly affected by most disruptions. Create a plan for recovery with contingencies and aid recovery. If a major event does cause problems, you should have a plan on how to recover quickly. The plan should include contingencies. For example, you should plan for very key operations will resume and how, if there is a widespread outage. Business continuity management and planning cover the following areas with differences and depending on the organization and industry. There's disaster recovery. This is the technology, recovering technology. Emergency management. Focus on avoiding and mitigating catastrophes to staff and communities. Business recovery considered part of business continuity. Business recovery centers on short activities that are disruptive incident, the short term. Business resumption, recover. Crisis management, manage all the crises. That's it. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Woo, woo, woo. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for that, telling us about business continuity management. I'm sure we may have picked up one or two things. Like I definitely like what you said. When there are crises, you have to come up with ways to try and see how you can continue as an organization. Thank you so much for that. We'll then move on to our next speaker, and that speaker is Tsepo. And I would also like to ask Tsepo's evaluator to please come to the virtual stage, and that's Hasina, and please tell us about Tsepo's speech objectives. So Tsepo.
Hello, good evening, Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and enthusiastic guest. Today, my role is to evaluate the speech for Tsepo Makove. He is presenting speech 2 for the project 4 and level 1, and his title is Importance of Project Planning. I am going to evaluate her overall, the structure of the presentation, the flow, and visual and verbal variations. I'm going to watch for his confidence level, his comfort level, and his euphoric sense also. I hope that you can sense my euphoria today. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for that, Madam Evaluator. So Tsepo with the speech title, The Importance of Project Planning. The Importance of Project Planning, Tsepo.
Did you know that according to the Project Management Institute, in a study that was conducted in January 2024, about 50% of projects are likely to fail. In that study, it was also established that 17% of those 50% fail due to poor planning. Good evening, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. According to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, a project is defined as a temporary endeavor that is undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Project planning is therefore a systematic process that focuses itself in the defining, the outlining, and therefore the performing of all project activities in the confines of time and budget. There are many reasons why there should be a project plan prior to project implementation. But for the sake of this presentation, I will only talk to 3 reasons. The first one being resource allocation. With a well-structured project plan, the project manager or team members are able to plan their human resources, their materials, and equipment. This helps in helping team members not to overburden themselves with activities other than those that are allocated for the project. It also helps in terms of budget allocation and budget performance. This helps in minimizing wastage during project implementation. Therefore, for any project to take place, a project plan should be in place. There's also another reason why a project plan should be in place. That is time management. With time management, the team members are able to define their roles and allocated time for each activity within a project. This helps team members to focus on the activities that they are supposed to focus on during the project implementation without being all over the place during the project implementation. Effective time management ensures that project stays on track, therefore preventing delays. It is therefore very important, Madam Toastmaster, for a project manager or project team members to make sure that prior to implementation of any project, there is an effective or a well-structured plan that focuses more especially on time, other than also on top of other activities that are being looked at. The other reason why there should be a project plan is because it helps during budget control. At the beginning of the project, when the team members are able to sit down and plan their project, they are able to allocate resources or allocate funds to each and every activity within a project. This helps them to make sure that activities that are specified are only done within the confines of that budget. Activities cannot be deemed to overspend when there is a project plan. It is therefore important, prior to any activity taking place in any environment or any project, for the team members to look at the project plan and make sure it's in place, it's well balanced, so that all activities are optimally resourced in the effects of resources, time, and budget. As I continue, Madam Toastmaster, an effective project plan also helps to make sure there is success in the project. Therefore, by having success in the project, the team members are well assured that during the project implementation, they'll be able to look at different aspects of the project in terms of resourcing them and in terms of sticking to the project plan that was made at the beginning of the project. As I conclude, it is very important for a project to have a project plan, because with a project plan in place, success is almost guaranteed. And effectively, team members will end up having euphoria because of the success of the project. Thank you.
Woo, 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 woo. Let's give Pepper a big hand. Woo, 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 woo. Well done, well done, well done, well done. Thank you for that. And we will then move on to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Lola. And I would like to ask Lola to switch on your camera, be camera ready, and then also invite Lola's evaluator to the virtual stage to share the evaluation of Lola's speech today.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. It is fantastic. It is a fantastic day. It has been actually a fantastic day. I am happy to be here. Today, I have the privilege of evaluating Lola's speech and not Lola as a person. I am quite sure she is a fantastic person. She is on her level. She is doing the path of innovative planning. After this, we expect her to be an effective planner. And she is on her level 1, project 4. Level 1, project 4 is about evaluation and feedback. It has 3 parts where you do your first speech, you are evaluated, you use the corrections or the areas of improvement to do a second speech, and after that, you are now, you have the opportunity to evaluate someone else. For Lola specifically, this is her second speech. From the feedback of her first speech, the items that I will be looking out for is use of pitch, volume, and tonal variety. I expect probably there are some places where she should use some soft notes and some places where she might be actually quite audible. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that. So with the speech title, The Finish Line, Lola, you may take the virtual stage.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The recent Olympic period has had me thinking about a time where I used to dabble in sports myself. I found myself thinking about my very first long distance running event. It was a cold winter morning in 2005 at the Jwaneng Golf Club. All the students were standing in their respective teams. So you had Team Eagle over there dressed in blue. You had Team Falcon over there dressed in yellow. And last but not least, Team Kestrel dressed in bright red, ready and fired up for the day. If you've ever been to a sports day event, you'll know how lively and exuberant the day is. That's exactly how it was. We sang songs and did some chanting to keep ourselves warm. After that, we were all taken onto the golf course to get a feel of the course and to see what paths we'd all be running on. Without any delay, the races began. We started off with the youngest age group, so your under 7s, which some of you might know as your standard ones. After that were the under 8s, my race. I got myself ready for the race. I took off my tracksuit. I stretched my tiny little arms and legs, and we were all summoned to the front of the starting line. All bunched together, we awaited the sound of the countdown. 3, 2, 1, bang, the gun went and we all took off. Now, the thing about a long distance race is you need to be able to balance your sprint with your jog. So I started the race off with a sprint until I managed to get away from the rest of the pack. And once I felt as though there was a sizable enough distance between myself and the majority, I transitioned into a jog. At this point, straight ahead was one of my team members in first place, then myself in second place, and not too far behind me was a girl in one of the opposing teams in third place. In this order, we ran. Along the golf course, we were met with a bend surrounded by bushes. Off went first place running round the bend. Then it was my turn to run around the bend. So I did. I ran, and when I got there, to my utter shock and dismay, I found my teammate on the ground, hunched over, hurling what looked like her breakfast from that morning. I asked her, what can I do to help? And I believe she shrugged me off and said, just run. And so I thought to myself, I can't just leave her there. And that is when she interrupted my thoughts and yelled, run. And so I took off. However, what I didn't realize was that that girl that had been behind me, she had ran straight past us and was now leading the race. At this moment, I now had increased motivation to not only run for myself, but my fallen teammates. So I ran, so much so that at this point, you can see the crowd straight ahead and you can see the finish line. The closer and closer we got, the more we could hear them chanting, run, Lola, go, Lola. And so I did. I ran and I ran my little lungs out, so much so that I ran straight past my opponent and straight past the finish line. I want to tell you today that very little compares to that euphoria past the finish line. It's the excitement, it's the cheers, it's the congratulations, the pats on your back. But let's be honest, when you are an 8-year-old, very little compares to that gold trophy awaiting you past the finish line. So here I am, almost a decade later, thinking about that very first running event. And I think that it is much like life. There are hurdles along the way. There are setbacks along the way. There are decisions to be made along the way. But with the right motivation, you can and you will find yourself past the finish line. You might not find that gold trophy awaiting you, but you will find self-fulfillment. And I think that that's worth finishing the race for and crossing the finish line for. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Woo, 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 woo. Cross that finish line. Well done. Cross that finish line. Woo, 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 woo. Yes, yes. There's many things that you will find. You have to push yourself to cross that finish line. Thank you so much, Lola, for that speech, and looking forward to you crossing the finish line of completing your level 1. Yay! We'll then move on to our final speaker, and that is Lame Mutetwa. I would like to invite Lame's evaluator. So there's just a slight change in our agenda. So Sean is going to evaluate Lame. And I would just like to invite Sean to the virtual stage to give us Lame's evaluation.
Thank you very much, Leah. I am pulling up my evaluation resource, and I will be evaluating Lame, who is giving a level 4 speech on the pathway effective coaching. And the purpose of Lame's speech is for Lame to learn about and practice facilitating a question and answer session. The purpose of this, additionally to that, is for Lame to practice delivering an informative speech and running a well-organized question and answer section. And all the best to you, Lame.
Thank you so much for that. So with the speech title, Fundamentals of Public Speaking, Fundamentals of Public Speaking, Lame, you may take the virtual stage.
Fundamentals of Public Speaking. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Good evening, guests. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening. This evening, I'd like to share on what I call the building blocks of a speaking event, or what I call the ingredients of a speaking event. That is the fundamentals of public speaking. Over the weekend, I called my nephew to come help me cook. It was quite a challenge for him, as he's still learning to do that. So I told him, you will be cooking a pot of stew, and I'll cook the simple stuff. I'll cook the pasta. He started gathering all the ingredients that he was going to need for the stew pot. And right before he started cooking, he called me. Mama, he calls me Mama, by the way. Mama, how many people am I cooking for? I thought, that's a very good question. Then I told him, okay, you're cooking for 5 people. And mind you, your little cousin is also part of this 5 people. Okay. Then he went on to the second question. Okay, is this going to be for lunch or for supper? I began to wonder, is he trying to find a way to dodge cooking? Then I told him, this is going to be for lunch. Then he started preparing the pot of stew. I watched him very carefully as he started washing and cutting the ingredients, washing the pot, and just how he meticulously cooked that stew. At one point, he came back to me and he's asked me another question. Did you say Jedediah is going to eat? Jedediah, referring to the little cousin who is 6 years old. Then I told him, yes, he's going to eat. Then I saw him nodding his head. I called him to ask, why are you asking if Jedediah is going to eat this food? He said, no, I wanted to put a certain spice, but I thought maybe it will be too much for him. I thought he knows what he's doing. I let him finish cooking. I cooked my pasta, we dished together, and I watched as the whole family enjoyed the meal. Everyone was commenting about his stew, except my pasta. I realized that, wow, as an aunt, I'm doing a good job. At least everyone is smiling to this pot of stew. What am I trying to portray? Or what message am I trying to convey with this story? Fellow Toastmasters and guests, one important aspect of public speaking is the ability to engage your audience. It's the ability to effectively communicate with your audience. And that's exactly what my nephew did with that pot of stew. He considered the ingredients of the stew. He considered the measurements. He considered what to put in the stew and what not to put in the stew. Just like the ingredients of public speaking. What are those ingredients? Or what are those building blocks of an effective speaking engagement? The first one. Before you go and make a presentation, or before you go and speak to a group of people, whether it's a big group of people or a small group of people, you need to know your audience. This first fundamental is very, very important. You need to know your audience. You need to know whether you'll be speaking to students, whether you're speaking to executives, whether you'll be speaking to a local community. After identifying that, you also need to identify what are their interests, what are their challenges, what are their expectations from that presentation. Once you know that your audience, ladies and gentlemen, you are able to tailor your message to meet their needs. That way, you are able to engage correctly with them. I'm realizing that I missed a very important part before I started my speech. To let you know that this is a question and answer session. At the end of this presentation, you'll be given an opportunity to ask questions. You're also allowed to use the chat box to put your questions there. Now, going back to the fundamentals of public speaking. The first one is knowing your audience. After knowing your audience, it's important that you define the purpose of your speech or your presentation. This is a very important key or aspect of public speaking. Before you go to the audience, ask yourself this question. Why am I giving the speech? What is it that I want my audience to get from the speech? Do I want to persuade them? Do I want to inform them? Do I want to inspire them? Or do I want to humor them? Remember, you identified your audience. Now, identify the purpose of why you are speaking to them. For instance, if your goal is to persuade your audience, knowing that will be a driving force of the kind of language you are going to use in your speech. If you want to humor them, you are definitely going to use different language from when you are inspiring your audience. So knowing the purpose of your speech gives your speech a direction, and you are able to engage with your audience effectively. The third ingredient, or the third building block of public speaking: structure your speech. Every effective speech needs to have a structure. It needs to have an introduction, the body, the conclusion. Not just an introduction. Your introduction is supposed to have what we call a hook, something to grab the attention of your audience. Your body, it's supposed to have a good flow of key points. That is the message you are conveying to the audience. When you come to the conclusion, which is the end of your speech or your presentation, your conclusion is supposed to have what we call a call to action. For an example, or for instance, I'm here this evening sharing on the fundamentals of public speaking. What is my call to action? Why am I communicating? Have I identified my audience? Yes, I've done that. I'm speaking to Toastmaster members. I'm speaking to people who are aspiring to be effective communicators. I'm speaking to people who are busy working on developing their public speaking skills, who are building their leadership skills. Why not share on what makes an effective speaking event, the fundamentals? So this speech is to inform you about the fundamentals, with the expectation that from here, you will use this structure to build an effective speaking engagement. You'll be able to engage your audience through your speech or through your presentation, now that you have a structure. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present this to you to say, public speaking is not just about standing in front of people and just speaking. Your speaking needs to be effective. You need to always be conscious of any speaking event. You, the speaker, think about the message. Think about the audience. Most of the times, we focus only on one area, which is us, the speaker, and we forget about the audience. We stand in front of the people, we communicate something that might be irrelevant to them, and we fail to connect with our audience. Because we have not identified the purpose of our message, we're not able to vary our tones, we're not able to engage our body language appropriately, because one, we have not identified the purpose of our speech. I like to bring this to you to say, always be conscious of these three ingredients of a speaking event. Know your audience, define the purpose of your speech or your presentation or your talk, then structure your speech. Your speech is supposed to have an introduction, body, and conclusion. that brings me to the end of this presentation. And at this particular time, I'll be inviting any questions from you. Zoom Master, please check if there's any question in the chat box.
All right, I'll check for you. Right now, there isn't anything.
There is no question. Anyone with a question or anyone who wants to understand?
There's a hand.
I see there's a hand there. Okay, that's Toastmaster Clemens. Please unmute yourself and share your question.
I have a question. Yes, Toastmaster Lamy. You have shared with us that we must have a call to action. I'd like to ask this question. Now I know the purpose of my speech, and the purpose of my speech is to inform. Can you please explain how I can have a call to action if I'm just informing? For example, maybe I'm just telling people about Victoria Falls or Sodilo Hills, and informing vis-a-vis call to action.
Are you done, Toastmaster Clemens?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Clemens. Toastmaster Clemens is asking, if the purpose of my speech is to inform, then how can I have a call to action? When you define the purpose of your speech and you realize that I want to inform, which means I want to give certain information about a particular thing. You mentioned Victoria Falls. Your call to action will be determined on how you informed people about Victoria Falls. If, for instance, you will share that Victoria Falls is a tourist place, it means you have informed someone who might be in the audience who didn't know about Victoria Falls as a tourist attraction place. So that means you have disseminated information to someone. You have left someone with the knowledge that, oh, Victoria Falls is a tourist place which I can visit or which I can recommend to someone. So what determines your call to action is how you presented your information. Did you just talk about Victoria Falls holistically? Or what exactly did you mention about Victoria Falls? So even if you are informing people about breeds of dogs, you are sensitizing people. And you are helping people understand that, oh, there are different breeds of dogs. So when it now comes to the call to action, the call to action can be an encouragement or just an encouragement to make people aware that there are different breeds of information, which means now you have left people with information that they didn't have before you made your presentation. I hope I answered your question, Toastmaster Clemens.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lamy. Yes.
Any other question? Any other question? We're talking about the fundamentals of public speaking or the ingredients of public speaking. Any other question? Let me check if there's any in the chat box. Okay.
There was a hand.
Okay, General Evaluator. Okay, before I come to you, Toastmaster Sean Langa, let me just attend to the one in the chat box. What strategies can I employ to maintain audience engagement during long presentations? Thank you very much, Mpoloke MP. I don't know if you are visiting Toastmaster or you're just a guest, but your question is welcome. What strategy can we employ to maintain or to engage our audience during the long speech? First, you identified your audience. Secondly, you identified the purpose of your speech or your presentation. So now you know whether you're going to persuade, or you're going to inform, or you're going to inspire. One strategy that you can use to keep your audience engaged in a long presentation, one, you can use storytelling. When you tell a story, you are able to connect with your audience. You are able to emotionally connect with your audience. With that principle or with that strategy, you are able to keep them in your conversation. You are able to keep them in your presentation. When I started my speech, I shared a story of how my nephew cooked a pot of stew. I want to believe that we have all cooked something. It might not be the pot of stew, but we might have cooked something. So cooking is not a strange thing to most of us, and we are able to connect with that. So use storytelling, use questions. That's how you keep your audience engaged. I'll be taking the last question from our general evaluator. Toastmaster Sean Langa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lame. I wanted to find out, most people struggle with transitioning from the body, the introduction to the body, and then from the body to the conclusion. What tips would you give people in terms of transitioning between the three elements of a speech?
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Sean Langa. How can we transition well? I like how he painted the picture with his fingers. How do we transition well? Introduction. In the introduction, tell us what you're going to talk about. I started my presentation to say, I'll be talking about the fundamentals of public speaking. Now, when you come to the introduction, tell us what you promised you will talk about. I decided to pick 3 points. There are other fundamentals of public speaking that I can talk about, but I chose to talk about 3 to use the power of 3. And I mentioned them. Number 1, number 2, number 3. So you are able to follow that. Firstly, I said I'll talk about the fundamentals. Now, what are those fundamentals? Know your audience, define the purpose of your speech, structure your speech. And then you come to the conclusion. The conclusion is now when you end your presentation or where you end your speech. So in the introduction, tell us what you're going to tell us. When you get to the body, tell us what you said you will tell us. Now, when you get to the conclusion, summarize what you said you will tell us or you will talk about. And mind you, in the conclusion, you don't introduce any new aspect or information that you didn't talk about within your speech or presentation. I realize that my time is over. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for all the questions. If maybe you have any other questions, you are free to put them in the chat box, and I will gladly attend to them during the meeting or even after the meeting. Over you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Woo-woo. Let's give Lame a big hand. Well done, well done. Eesh. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting project to do, how to handle question and answers and how to balance the two. Very interesting. And as she said, I can see there is even a question in the chat. So clearly the people are now getting more freer to ask more questions. So thank you so much, Lame, for that. And we have now come to the end of our prepared speaking segment. It was definitely a euphoric experience, I would say so. I will then now move on to our next part in the agenda, which is the timekeeper's report. So, Palesa, if you could just give us the time report for our speakers this evening.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm back again, this time a little bit more prepared than I was when we first started the meeting. I will be giving you the timekeeper's report. Our first speaker, Benjamin, who spoke on business continuity, spoke for 4 minutes and 44 seconds, which is slightly below the minimum time allocated to him because his speech was supposed to be from 5 to 7 minutes. Our next speaker was Tepo, who spoke for 5 minutes and 27 seconds. Tepo was speaking on the importance of project planning and spoke within the allocated time. Lola, who spoke about her experience in a track race, spoke for 5 minutes and 38 seconds, which is also within the allocated time. Our final speaker, who was Lami, who gave us the fundamentals on public speaking, spoke for 20 minutes and 59 seconds, slightly above the time, as her time allocation was 20 minutes, 18 to 20 minutes rather. All speakers more or less spoke within the allocated time, except Benjamin, who was slightly below the threshold. Thank you, Toastmaster of the day. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Belisa, for that time report. We'll then move on to our next segment, which is the table topics. But before we do that, we'll just launch the poll for you to vote for the best effort speaker of the night. We had 4 speakers this evening, so the poll should be showing up on your screen. You just have to select one of them. And as you are doing that, we'll move on to, like I said, to the table topics. So this particular session is going to be taken up by Clemens, and he is actually doing this as an active listening project. So he will be evaluated during the feedback session by Dumelo. So I'd like to invite Clemens to the virtual stage as he does the table topics for today's meeting. Clemens?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Today, I'm really euphoric about leading this session, table topics. It's really quite a session that gives euphoria in a number of people in this meeting, because here I'll be calling out members or guest Toastmasters to come and speak impromptu. I have 5 questions. I'm looking for 5 volunteers to take these 5 questions and tell us whatever you think about the topic that I give you. You will have 1 to 2 minutes. That's a maximum of 2 minutes to present your thoughts. Please don't be scared. Be euphoric. Raise up your hand and take the question. This is how we learn in Toastmasters. I would like to have the first volunteer. Who would like to take our first question? I see Julie. Yes, Julie. I see Julie has raised your hand. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, Julie, I have a question for you. What does success mean to you? What does success mean to you?
Thank you to the Table Topics Master for this outstanding question. And good evening to fellow Toastmasters and the committee running the meeting. Well done, and all the speakers. What does success mean to me? Some people might think that success is the big stage. Some people might think that success is being a politician, a top dog in business. Some people might think that being successful is having the admiration of your community. Some people might think that success is getting a promotion, having loads of money. I disagree with all of those. Success for me is in the smaller, the little things. The day-to-day achievements. Maybe if I'm kind to somebody and I can see that that person smiles in response. If I see a child that I'm teaching, the penny drops and they go forwards. Maybe it's I have a broken leg. You can see I'm not very stable. I'm getting up and down. Maybe it's going to the Pilates class and stretching my leg and doing exercises. The smaller successes are more meaningful than the big stuff that everybody's watching. That's what I know I've done. It's my integrity. It's what's in my heart. It's that I know that I've done something right for myself, for my family, for my community. That's success. Not all the big stuff. What's in here and what I do. Thank you very much for asking me this very challenging question. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Julie, for your comment on success. I really get you there, that you see success not as something that really people want to shine with or to be seen as big things like pride, to create pride in people, but it is those little things that people do every day, making someone smile, helping someone, and seeing that little child smile and advance in their life. Thank you for that thought. I really appreciate you. I have a second question. I saw someone in the chat that said want to write. Was there someone who said I want to take a? Okay, that's Tiana. I think we'll give Tiana a question. Let me later on. We'll put it in the chat. In the chat there.
Thank you.
Can I have another volunteer while I prepare a question for Diana?
Thank you.
Okay, as the table topic class, I have the power to pick also. Someone. Can I have a guest? Who is here? Please. Yes, there's a hand. Okay, Ntezi. Diana, I'll put your question in the chat, please. Okay, I'll put the question for Diana. I'll have Ntezi first and then Bonolo. Another Zoom master, can we have Diana muted? I'll put the question in the chat. Thank you. Ntezi, yes, can I have Ntezi?
Yes.
Thank you, Ntezi, for volunteering to take to the table topics question. My question to you is, how do you celebrate your success? How do you celebrate your success?
Thank you, Master of Table Topics. Success or my celebration in my achievement. It's always a great feeling, especially if you have planned, you have prepared, you have also performed to the exceptional level that you feel you are accomplished. So in most cases, when I celebrate, one of the first steps is that I like to take in the moment to really feel how much I've came so far. I mean, if I set a goal and I achieve something, I try to look at the steps so that in future I can easily replicate or repeat and apply them in a different avenue or adventure. So in most cases, one of the first thing is for me to really track my journey and appreciate the little things, the little sacrifices that I've made. And from there, that's when I share my stories with other people. I rejoice. I take myself out to have some refreshments and, to really feel the moment that I have really achieved something good. So that's how I really celebrate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ntezi. That's quite interesting that the way you celebrate your success, that you need to reflect on it and think backwards and see how you came to be that. And also taking time with your friends and rejoicing and having refreshment. That's a wonderful way to celebrate. Thank you for letting us know. Our next speaker is Bonolo. Before I'm going to put a question for Diana in there. Sorry, Bonolo, just give me a minute. I want to type a message here for Diana. Please, Diana. Okay, I have a question for Diana in the chat. Thank you, Diana. Bonolo, thank you for coming forward. I have a question for you. Okay, can we have a video if you can, please, Bonolo? Yes, Bonolo, I have a question for you. Would you believe someone, Master, would you believe someone who says, I am self-made when successful? Why or why not? Would you believe someone who says, I am self-made when they become successful? Why or why not?
Thank you.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Would I believe someone who would say they are self-made? And if not, why? I personally do not believe anyone is self-made. You might have put in a lot of work as a person to achieve whatever success you would have achieved. But I do not believe that anyone is absolutely self-made. So I totally disagree with that statement. I believe that even when you really believe you put in the work, much of the work by yourself, there's still someone or something. Might be someone, it might be an event, it might be anything that really pushed you to the edge to achieve whatever that you have achieved. So I would always want to not only give yourself the credit, but also give those things a credit to the success that you would have achieved. So I believe I have answered the question there, that I do not believe that anyone is self-made. I believe we're made by circumstances, we're made by people, so many people that we meet. It might be just meeting one person and giving you a certain advice, just one simple advice that would really change the trajectory of your life. You are the one who's going to do the work, who's going to put in the work from then on, but you were not self-made. I thank you, Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernardo. I can see that you are really convinced that one cannot be self-made. There are really other people out there who have contributed to your success, those that have done many other things to make you where you are. Thank you very much for that thought. Our next speaker is Theo. Yes, Theo. Would like to take a table topic. Thank you, Theo. Here is your question. There is no success without failure. There is no success without failure. Comment. You are muted.
Greetings to all fellow Toastmasters, and thank you for the question, Table Topic Master. I believe that success on its own, it's made up of failures. Success is the ultimate or the final destination, but as we attempt different challenges in life, as we attempt different problems, we encounter failures on the way, but the most important part is to turn that small little favor which adds on to the next step so that we can proceed and make and arrive at our final destination. I believe that success and failure go hand in hand. I won't really separate success with failure. Success is the final destination, whilst a failure, in my own perception, is the small little steps that pulls you or makes you approach the final destination of the final goal, which is the success. So I would agree with the statement that there isn't success without failure. Thank you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Theo. It was quite interesting to listen to you, that there's no success without failure. And you went on to say that success and failure go hand in hand. It is when you fail, you take those little steps and then you build them up to get to your success, and success is the final destination. And I definitely agree with you. So thank you for that. I'll take my last speaker. I see a tech Mrs. Mpuluke want to take a table topics. Table topic. This is our last table topic. Thank you. Can we have him looking on the stage? Yes, Mpuluke. Thank you for choosing to take a table topic. I would like you to listen carefully. What do you imagine would happen if all humans were suddenly removed from Earth this minute? What do you think will happen if all humans, everyone, was taken away from Earth this minute?
Thank you, Toastmasters. I would like to, firstly, let me start by greeting you by all. Thank you for the question that you have just painted for me. Firstly, you have to imagine living in this kind of planet where where there's humanity, where there's love, and where there's kindness, and where there's prosperity in every way. just imagine within a second, and then you are told that this is your last time to be on Earth, or you just disappear for a moment without an acknowledgement. So it's something that that's really touching, and something that nobody's going to enjoy, and nobody's going to nobody would love to see it happen. So being a human, or being a creature who creeps on the earth, is something that is very precious, and something that something that was not created by human, but it was created by someone who is not we even don't know. So living on the planet Earth is something that is very precious, and even when someone dies, or a family member lives or dies or leaves the earth, is something that that is touching, and we won't appreciate that. We won't celebrate with that happiness, that we have lost that soul. So for this question, it will really touch us, as as in a sense that we want accept the way things will happen in that moment. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Poloke. That was really quite thoughtful. And really, I can feel it from you that it's really a sad moment for you, to something that you do not expect. And you told me that imagine living this world which is full of love, excitement, and other things, and then you have to live it this minute. And you went on to reiterate that it is really a sad moment. Thank you for that insightful comment on that topic. I would like to thank everyone who has decided to take a table topics. I really felt euphoric, and I also think you felt that euphoria within you, that you have done something good for yourself today, to be able to take a topic impromptu. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you so much, Clemens, for that, and the session. I will then move on to the Hackmaster session. So, Madam Hackmaster, if you could come and tell us, see how well we were listening today. And while she's coming to the virtual stage, just want to remind our guests and visitors, we have something shared in the chat. We have a guest book. Please feel free to fill in the guest book. Let us know how we are doing as a club. If you're someone who loves to join Toastmasters, we even have a WhatsApp group for all our guests, so you always keep up to date with what's happening in the club. So, Madam Hackmaster Laruna, if you could please come to the virtual stage.
Good evening once again. I am back as promised to challenge your listening skills. Without any further ado, my first question will be, what was Benjamin's speech on? Benjamin was our first speaker.
Business continuity.
Yes.
Management.
Exactly. Business continuity management. Tepo said, how many projects are likely to fail?
50%.
And how many of the 50% fail due to poor planning?
50.
She said 70% of the 50% are likely to fail due to poor planning. Tepo was coming with the statistics. What are the reasons for project planning? She gave us 3 reasons for project planning. Any of the 3?
Budget control.
Budget control. Let's go.
Resource allocation.
Resource planning.
Okay. Time management.
And time management. Who's that? Somebody was listening tonight. Thank you very much. What sport did Lola participate in?
Running.
What was it, long distance, short distance?
Long
Distance.
It was long distance running. And how long ago did that happen?
10 years ago.
A decade ago.
She said almost a decade.
Okay.
And what age group was Lola in?
8.
Close?
7.
Above 8.
Under 8.
Under 8. Yes.
Yeah.
What did Lame ask her nephew to cook?
Stew.
Stew. Yes. She said that was the easier dish. She said stew was easier than pasta. I'd like to disagree, but okay, Lame. And what did she say were the building blocks of public speaking? She gave us 3 building blocks of public speaking.
Introduction.
Knowing your audience. Knowing your audience.
Know your audience is the first.
Defining the purpose of the speech and structuring it.
Order. How to order
your speech.
In that order. Know your audience, define the purpose of your presentation, and structure your speech.
Mark Zuckerberg just bought his wife a custom.
Our last question would be, how do you keep your audience engaged?
Through
storytelling.
And
storytelling and questions indeed. Thank you very much. You were an attentive audience.
Thank you so much, Laruna, for that and checking whether we were listening, and some people were listening more than others. So it's an encouragement for us to be fully engaged in the meeting, because we are tested to see really are we paying attention. So we'll now move on to our next segment, which will be the evaluation segment part of our meeting, and I'll hand over to our general evaluator, Sean, to please carry on the evaluation segment.
Thank you, Leah. Am I audible? We can all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So, in Toastmasters, they say, well, I think in life, a lot of people say feedback is the breakfast of champion. And I guess in Toastmasters, we tend to serve our breakfast at dinner time. So let us serve that breakfast. And we are going to first start off with the evaluation of the prepared speeches. So I am going to start off with our first evaluator, who is evaluating Benjamin, and that's Ntedzi. I hope I did not butcher your name. If I did, I apologize. But can you please, thank you. Can you please give us the evaluation for Benjamin's speech?
Thank you, Sir General Evaluator. Yes, the name you didn't butcher that much, Ntedzi. Yes, I had the privilege of evaluating Benjamin Mahodielo with his speech, Business Continuity Management. Benjamin, I would like to say I'm going to evaluate you on 3 steps in what you excelled on. what we can work on and give you a challenge so that we can be able to apply the feedback on a second speech. Firstly, what I liked about your speech is that is well structured and very informative. We had good tips such as emergency response, crisis management, and disaster recovery. And you started with the definition of your title, and you gave examples. I heard you highlighting COVID, and then you highlighted the steps that are needed for continuity management. You talked about the life cycle as well. So we really learned a lot on your business continuity and management title. So what I would like you to, or what you might be look for to work on is your posture, Benjamin. You gave your speech when we are sitting down. We are always encouraged to have a stand so that we are able to display ourselves to our audience. The other thing is that you have to face your camera. It helps you to engage your audience. And then you have to also include your audience with questions or examples that are relative to them. As I highlighted, your speech was a bit technical or informative. So we have a different variety of guests here. So it's good to give relatable examples so that the audience gets what you are talking about. And the other thing that I realized is when you came to your conclusion, it wasn't clear that it was a conclusion. And in doing so, you also have to give your audience the task or a challenge or a lesson from your speech. So overall, I will challenge you to work on your presentation, posture, and your audience engagement. With that being said, big up to you, Benjamin, for delivering such a speech. We learned a lot from it, and I look forward for your second speech on the evaluation and feedback project. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Teti. And, you know, I love, as somebody that deals in compliance, I love how Benjamin spoke of business continuity, and it's an overlooked thing. So I loved it. Big ups to you, Benjamin, and well done on delivering that speech. And I hope you will take this feedback forward and improve on that. We're going to move on to our next speaker or our next evaluator, which will be Hasina, who will be evaluating Tsepo. So can I please have Hasina up?
Hi, thank you, Toastmaster General Evaluator. Tsepo, you delivered an informative speech effectively. Your introduction was clearly communicated and the overall structure was thoughtful. You highlighted 3 key factors for the project, manage success of the project, any project. And your each point was relevant and you well articulated. The flow of your speech was smooth, and I appreciated how you transitioned between the key points. Your conclusion was also succinct. It was good. I would suggest that if you could have used some live examples, anecdote, some specific project which was either successful or failed, and the reason for those success or failure, it would have been more engaging to the audience and memorable. Second thing, I noticed that you use word important several times. It would have been better if you incorporate few synonyms like crucial or key points or significant points, paramount, something like that. It would have given more variety and depth to your speech. And I would challenge you to give facial expression and the smile, and it will feel that your speech is your passion, the topic is your passion, and you will engage your patient, your audience more strongly. So overall, your speech was relevant, well articulated, and I'm looking forward to your next speech with a few enhancements so that it could become even more engaging. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Hasina. And what I love about Tsepo, you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I love how you told us the importance of actually planning ahead of time. So well done on that speech, another level 1 speech. So well done on that. Next up is our third evaluator, who is Brian, who is going to give us the evaluation for Lola's speech. Brian, my good sir, where are you? Over to you, Brian.
Thank you, General Evaluator. I had the privilege of evaluating Lola. I am evaluating her speech and not Lola as a person. Lola was doing her level 1 project 4 evaluation and feedback. She is on her second speech. One of the most critical items that I was asked to look out for was vocal variety. I will basically split this in 3: what you did well, perhaps what you can improve, and what you can challenge yourself. I have quite some notes, so perhaps we can catch up later after this. However, for these few minutes, I will just talk about what is most important based on the first evaluation. What you did well, you excelled on some aspects of body language. I remember you said you removed your tracksuit and then you are exercising, you're doing things like this and that, and so on and so forth. I commend you for that. You stood up to do your speech. I also commend you on that. And it was actually full body. People rarely do that. So congratulations for that. You had some vocal variety, 3, 3, 2, 1, bang, with the gun going off. You also mentioned some of the phrases, run, Lola, run, which was quite good. Perhaps 1 or 2 items that you might consider to improve on. Your hands for most of the time were you are mostly locking back your hands together. You can consider just freeing up your hands. And when you free your hands, you have them tilted towards the audience as compared to when you're freeing and they're just, my camera is not doing me justice. Like when you're freeing and it's just it's lower like this. So you can consider when you just free your hands and it is directing towards the audience. Your pace, you can perhaps also consider, I noticed at some point you're trying to take your pace a bit slow and increase on your pace. Perhaps you can also try and work on that. And the last item I would say you can perhaps consider improving on is repetition. You had a very good title, The Finish Line. With that, you can perhaps try and use that as a transition. For example, when the other person fell down and you are running towards the end, maybe you could have said something like, she told me to go and reach the finish line. Normally, we are advised to at least try and use the repetition 3 times if it's the key item, for example, the finish line and so on and so forth. However, we can talk about it later. The last item I would want to challenge you on is to practice more on the vocal variety. Just go to YouTube, search vocal variety, do the the arms, and so on and so forth. Overall, generally, I think you have improved tremendously. I looked at what you specifically asked me to look out for, and I think you can proceed to your next project. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Brian. I hope you saw what I did there, right? Nonetheless. I
Yeah,
am
yes. Repetition.
I am the fourth evaluator, and I will be evaluating Lami. Lami, I'm a terrible cook. I cooked this Friday, and let's just say it's still sitting in the fridge. So I'm a terrible cook. I might be coming for cooking lessons. And what I like about the way you started your speech was facts tell, but stories sell. And you did that very well. You captured our attention by actually telling a story in the beginning. Now, we're all sitting there wondering, okay, where's this going? And after telling us the story, you told us the importance of asking questions. And that tied in with your project objectives. So well done on actually doing that. So by doing that, you somewhat allowed us to get an idea of where you're going. So well done on that. You stood up, unlike me, you stood up and it helped with your vocal projection. And it shows that you're a seasoned speaker. Yeah, you had a level 5. So it showed that you've been through the trenches, you've done the work, and you know you've taken some feedbacks over the course of your path and you've applied it by standing up because it helps with us seeing as well as your projection. Vocal variety, it was there. You did very well on that, especially when you were switching between two speakers. You could tell when you're speaking to, it's a child now speaking and it's now an adult speaking. And that for me, it kept me engaged. So well done on that part. And you shared with us the importance of questions, and for me, I think by using that story, like I said, it allowed us to get an idea of where can questions actually save us and make sure that we're on the right path. So well done on doing that. Keep telling stories. And you used the power of 3. The power of 3, you used it twice actually. Used it twice and I like it. I would have loved for you to use it 3 times and it would have been a perfect treble. So well done on using the power of 3. And you paused very well. I love how you paused. Instead of going, you paused extremely well. I was waiting for you. I'm like, but your pausing was amazing. You acknowledge the audience. And when during the Q&A, you acknowledge the audience, you first said the person's name and then you answered their question. It showed that you were listening to them throughout. You were not just picking and choosing what you wanted to. You acknowledged them. Well done on that. Now, obviously, I have to give you room for improvement. So vocal variety was there. I loved it. Hand gestures. However, you had hand gestures, but you didn't use them with a purpose all the time. You used them to enhance your speech, but at some point they became a bit more distracting. So consider having a position that you go back to after using your hand gestures. For example, after asking, is it for lunch or supper? You could have then gone back, but your hand gestures continued and it sort of distracted us from your speech. So consider working on your hand gestures and having them work for you rather than against you. You're at a level 5. I would love for you to have them as a tool rather than a distraction. Your body language, at some point you were swinging a little bit, and that is a bit distracting. And I understand because we're on a virtual stage, you somewhat are a bit limited in terms of where you can go. In a live setting, you would be able to walk from one side of the room to the other. But because we're in a virtual stage, consider standing a bit still or finding ways of actually coming forward as and when you need to, as opposed to swinging from side to side. So consider working on that. And I would love to challenge you. Next time when you're doing a project of like this, consider doing a presentation when you're now informing us about the importance of, asking questions or the importance of the fundamentals of public speaking. Having a presentation would have allowed us to have visual aids and see what you're trying to get across to us. And also presenting is one of those things that you need to work through as a Toastmaster. So consider flexing that skill. I'm sure you've learned it, so it would have been an enhancement to your project. So I would challenge you to add that the next time you deliver a speech of this caliber, you know. Lastly, well done. You had a call to action. I loved it. Honestly speaking, the way your Q&A went, it didn't feel long. When I saw the evaluation, I was like 15 to 20 minutes. This is gonna be long, but it didn't feel like that. So well done on that. And I can tell I'm out of time. So Lame, I will be having a written version of this. Okay, thank you. So now I'm handing over back to myself as the general evaluator. So I'm done as Madam Timekeeper. I'm done as the evaluator. Now I'm going back to my other hat. We are now going to move on to the grammarian, the R counter, as well as the timekeeper's report. I'm going to start with the grammarian. Madam Grammarian.
Hi, General.
Pardon?
Sorry to disturb you. I was also evaluating Clemens as the table topics master.
Oh, I see. Thank you for
My
correcting me.
apologies about that.
No
Yes.
stress, no stress. Thank you for correcting me.
Good
Over to
evening
you.
once again. Thank you, General Evaluator. I was tasked with evaluating Clemens as our table topics master tonight. And it's actually euphoric how many different projects exist at Toastmasters, and this was just one of them. His objectives were just to demonstrate the ability to listen actively. And this was through running a well-run table topics session or serving as a table topics master. So, Clemens, congratulations on that well-prepared table topics segment. The three things you did well are that you indeed prepared well for the session and it was theme specific. Our theme being that we were celebrating success today, and most or all of the questions were success inclined. You also satisfied the objectives of displaying active listening. You affirmed every speaker after each and every speech, and you also didn't just echo their sentiments, but rather showed your interpretation of what they meant. This was indeed showing that you were actively listening. Thirdly, you attempted to accommodate our diverse audience. We have in our presence today Diana, who had to participate via the chat. But two areas to improve, however, would be time management. Unfortunately, whenever you affirmed each speaker, that one affirmative line tended to flow into a monologue and formed another speech, which is one thing that made the session quite long, although the project is offered in 5 to 7 minutes. Also, impromptu speaking is just that. It's impromptu. You can't prepare and you can't anticipate for everyone's answers. Therefore, you need to manage those engagements as and when they present, which is what I'm driving towards our diverse audience. You'd have to incorporate their responses in any way, shape, or form. One way to challenge yourself, which I think you did well, but you could also continue to resist the urge to add opinion. Showing someone you're listening doesn't always beget that you respond with what you think, but rather demonstrate that indeed you do hear them. So the three things you did well were that it was well prepared, it also satisfied the objectives and attempted to accommodate everyone in the room. Two areas to improve, however, are time management as well as the overall management of the segment. And one area to challenge yourself is to continue to resist the urge to add opinion. With that said, congratulations once again, Clemens. You displayed an honestly, absolutely wonderful show of active listening. And I think we learned a lot from both the subject matter and the project. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we can all agree that it was such a euphoric experience, you know, and I hope I used that correctly. If not, Madam Grammarian, you'll correct me. Over to you, Madam Grammarian.
No, I'm just writing that down.
Oh, great.
General Evaluator 1.
There we go.
Thank you very much for handing back to me for my euphoric moment of the evening. As the grammarian, I greet you once again. I've been scribbling lots down here, and I would like to comment first of all on the numerous times that the word euphoric was used, a very well selected word for the evening. The Toastmaster used it twice, Evaluator 1 used it once, Evaluator 2 used it twice, Speaker 2 used it twice, Speaker 3 used the word 3 times, the Table Topics Master used it 5 times, what a champion, and the Table Topics Evaluator used it once, and I must include the last one, which I just managed to write down, was the General Evaluator also used it, just as I was about to begin my speech and exclude him. I'd like to comment on the fact that 2 quotes were used during the course of the evening. One started off, which was from Churchill, and the second one, I'm not sure, I can't actually remember who it was said by, but it was about temporary endeavours, but very good to include a couple of quotes. I've just written down a whole scramble of notes of phrases that were used, which I thought were of a good standard of English. I'm not going to refer to the specific people who said them. So let me rattle them off very, very quickly. Stepping up, better listening, document and assess, management life cycles, all over the place, staying on track, optimally completed, the team that was last but not least. I appreciate you. That's so lovely. I appreciate you. Just what you said, but the whole person. Transitioning into a jog, shrugging something off, my fallen teammate, building blocks or fundamentals, tailor your message, a driving force, humor your audience, disseminate information, sensitize people. I also thought it was charming the way when somebody asked a question, the reply was, your question is welcome. I loved taking the moment, feel the moment, the trajectory of your life. Turn failures into successes, and so that you reach your destination. I thought about breakfast turning into dinner time. I was a little bit concerned about somebody who was butchering somebody's name, but they weren't offended. I very much liked the way it was said that when you stand, you actually present your whole self over to the audience. I thought theme specific was a very good phrase, and being through the trenches is a very good phrase. I've been put off now because I see that the poll has come onto the screen. But the champion image of the evening, can you still see me? I don't know if you can still see me. The champion phrase, the champion image of the evening was preparing a speech to a stew. That image is the winner, and it really, really worked. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I was most euphoric about the use of the English language tonight. Back to you, but I'm just looking at the screen, the poll.
Thank you very much, Madam Grammarian. That was a good report, and I hope we all learned a thing or two from that report. And I'm glad that we got to use the word of the day. And hopefully going forward, we'll continue using it in our day-to-day lives or everyday lives. And I am now going to move on to our next evaluator or feedback giver. I need the grammarian back here. Anyway, we're going to move on to the R counter. Madam R counter.
Thank you, General Evaluator. I feel a sense of euphoria to give my feedback and I will give it in no particular order.
Oh no.
Benjamin, we recorded 1 and 2 Tabo 2 and 3 arms. Lame 1 Ndezi, I recorded 1 I spoke somewhere. Myself, I also spoke to. I want to believe I had some R's and arms there. Theo, I recorded 3 S's and 3 arms. Mpolokang, 3 S's, 4 arms. Hasina, 1 Yes, that's my report in no particular order, as I said. Thank you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. I disappeared for a minute, so I hope I didn't make a report. If I didn't, that's great. If I did, I will have to get my evaluation from somebody else. Now, we're going to see how we did on time in terms of the evaluations. And I am going to call up on Madam Timekeeper for our Timekeeper's report. Madam Timekeeper, Palesa.
Good evening once again. I am back as your esteemed timekeeper this evening. So the first evaluator was Ndezi, who was evaluating Benjamin, and he spoke for 2 minutes, 58 seconds. The following evaluator was Hasina, who spoke for exactly 2 minutes. From there, it was Brian, who was evaluating Lola, and he spoke for 3 minutes and 41 seconds, which is slightly above the allocated time. Our final speaker, who is our general evaluator this afternoon, and did declare and confess that he was way over time, was Sean, who was evaluating Lame, and he spoke for 5 minutes and 38 seconds. And I'm euphoric to report that this time around, I was prepared for my role. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and good evening.
Thank you, Madam Timekeeper. I stand to be corrected, or maybe you were unable to get Dumelo's evaluation?
Oh yes, I should have highlighted that. I was unable to record the time for Dumelo. My apologies, Ms. Mapalala.
They say teamwork makes the dream work. I subconsciously did keep track of her time, and she was on time. So we're good on that one. Now, thank you to all my evaluators and those who did give feedbacks. We are now going to get to my report as the general evaluator. Let's see how well I do in this part of the feedback in terms of time. So the meeting started on time, and it's very rare these days to get meetings that are online that actually start on time. I don't know what it is about being online that makes us want to not start on time. And the meeting room was opened up early, and it allowed the speakers to actually test their speaking area and see if they are visible to the audience. I loved that. So well done on that. And that is something that I think a lot of people should start incorporating, especially when it comes to online meetings. The tone of the meeting was set from the onset. It was the Zoom master told us what are the rules, what we need to adhere to, as well as speak into the mission of the club, and the guests were welcomed. So well done on that. As a guest, I felt welcomed in the beginning, and you're maintaining the structure of the Toastmaster format. You know, there's been a lot of changes, but somehow the structure is still here. So I appreciate that. Personally, I appreciate how the structure is still being maintained. And when the Toastmaster of the day was actually called up, they had a whole CV, and the president actually told us who the Toastmaster was and what are their credentials. And that for me, I loved, and it's something that I haven't seen in a while. So well done on that. And it allows us to actually get a better understanding of who the speaker is or the Toastmaster of the day is. So well done on that. You celebrated the members, loved it. However, I know that we are celebrating, and I would have loved for us to actually have it as a line item on the agenda so that we know that we are in the celebrating part of the agenda, as opposed to just slotting it in there as part of the introduction of the Toastmaster of the day. I would have loved for us to actually have it as a line item on the agenda. So consider actually having that as a line item. The Hackmaster. It's an interesting addition to the agenda. I haven't seen one in a while. So the last time I saw this was actually at another corporate club. So well done on this. And I love the session. I love how it actually sort of breaks the tension when the Hackmaster does come in. So well done on that. And in terms of role players, I know there were certain role players that actually were that somewhat could not come to this meeting due to whatever reasons. But as a club, you guys made sure you came together and made that happen. You took up roles. The timekeeper came up, she took up her role. She was not prepared in the beginning, but she got better towards the end. The grammarian, somebody took up a role as a grammarian, and that helped keep the meeting flowing. So well done on the club actually coming together and making the meeting continue. And obviously, I would recommend that maybe we should consider start having backups for some of the key roles, such as timekeeper and grammarian. That way, we know that should something happen to the main grammarian or the main timekeeper, we have somebody else coming in. Especially with timekeeping. That's why in contest you get two sets of timekeepers, obviously to get accurate time, but also to help if somebody falls away, there is somebody who can pick up the ball. So consider having a backup for some of these roles. And the agenda was shared in the chat, but however, the agenda was shared a bit late. It was shared during the meeting as opposed to at the start of the meeting. So consider sharing that agenda at the beginning of the meeting and maybe throughout the meeting for those that do join late, but consider sharing it at the beginning, because at some point I'm like, I had to go back on my phone and actually look at the agenda and see where we are. So consider sharing that agenda early on. Word of the day being on the agenda, loved it. Well done. Continue that. The theme was explained and you actually celebrated people in the beginning in line with the theme. So well done on that. The general evaluator was not introduced at the beginning of, before this, when you were introducing the role players. I felt a bit left out. So I would consider maybe introducing the general evaluator as well as the table topics. Well, they've actually changed it to topics master. Consider introducing the topics master as well as the general evaluator when you're introducing the other role players. It helps everybody to know who's who in the zoo. And most of the speakers actually stood up and they engaged the audience, loved it. So well done to the speakers. Continue doing what you're doing, Madam VPE, as well as the mentors. Clearly something is working there. So well done on that. And the cameras. I am a person that likes to be engaged or engage and look at people when I'm speaking. Like right now, the cameras are off. I can see two people's cameras and I'm not sure whether I'm going in the right direction or not, but Julie's looking at me, so it looks like I'm doing something right. I would love for us to consider having cameras on, and I know people might have internet issues, but it does help with the speaker gauge the audience reaction so that they can see, oh, I need to inject something into my speech so that I can wake up the speakers, because we never know, I mean, the audience, we never know if we've lost our audience, if everybody's off. And I am, once again, time is not, I'm bad with time, I apologize. And last but not least, I honestly loved how you guys put together this meeting. It was well structured. You guys are doing great as a club. The meeting had all the speakers there, it had all the evaluators there. It had all the elements of a great meeting. So well done. Just improve on those few points, and I will be sending this whole written report to you, Leah, so that you can at least apply some of these, you know. All in all, thank you for having me as your GE, and all the best with the rest of your year. Am I?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you
No.
so much for that. If I told you your time, you'll be shocked, but thank you so much for that. We'll definitely
No,
take into
I wouldn't
consideration.
be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. I was competing with Lame.
Yes. So at this point, I will just share the recognition in terms of we voted for the best speaker and best evaluator. So in terms of best evaluator of the night, okay, it hasn't yet started sharing. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So best evaluator is Brian. Woo, woo, woo. Well done, Brian. Well done. 86% of the vote. And then also best speaker, we had like over 80% of the vote. It was Lola. Woo, woo, woo. Well done, Lola. Best effort speaker. And then also we always say thank you to visiting Toastmasters who help us in the meeting. So thank you. Oh, Julie, sorry, it was supposed to say grammarian. I'll amend that. Thank you, Julie, for being grammarian, and Brian for coming to you as an evaluator, and Sean for coming to assist us as the general evaluator. We'll then hand over to Melo with closing remarks and stuff. Melo?
Thank you. Thank you, Leah, for that. Could I please just request that we switch on our cameras and take a quick photo? Please, please, please. Sean has said something that is very important. We need to document and see one another's faces. Please switch on your camera for a quick photo. I see the cameras are coming on. Cheese.
All right, so if we are ready with our big smiles. Okay. All right, we have
Thank
taken one.
you.
I'm gonna. All right, thank you so much. You may continue, Melo.
Okay. Could I please ask that our guests wait and not leave the meeting so that we can interact with them after? But I'd just like to close. Once again, we've had such a fruitful meeting where we celebrated our successes here at Toastmasters and elsewhere. I'd like to just ask you a quick question. Have you renewed? Maybe you ought to think about that one. September was our renewals month, and we urged members to renew. That is to self-pay on the website. But however, the website will be going on an outage. Basecamp will be out from the 9th to the 25th of October, and some material may not be available. However, you can see some of us, that is Leah and I, for any assistance if you need it, especially where course content or pathway content is concerned. And that brings us to the very end of our meeting. Like I said, we celebrated our success as a club. We've done great. We had a successful speech month. That was September. And we have our next meeting, which is an in-person meeting on the 15th of October, next week, Tuesday, at Lifeline Medical Center. But if you cannot make that meeting, we have our usual bi-weekly meeting appointment right here on Zoom, again on the 22nd. So a virtual meeting on the 22nd, which is a very special one where we'll have a special guest, Andrew Tsuru, who was once our district director, and we'll be celebrating the 100th anniversary, or this word dribbles me all the time. Sending that. Yes, the 100th anniversary of Toastmasters. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. So with that said, I would like to officially adjourn our meeting. The time is 8:20. We have long gone over our meeting allocation, but this brings us to the end. Good night. It was lovely having you. I'd like to say see you soon. Thank you. Yes, I see a friend I made